There's 5 people here. Okay. So all of us have a woman in our life that we're really close to. It's probably either our mother, if we have a sister, a family member, or maybe it's a really close friend of ours. Now, can you see that person potentially being a leader or even a politician? The United States is a leader in many things. For example, the global economy, military power, leading popular culture trends around the globe. But there's a place where we're not leading. Worldwide women's leadership shows that Rwanda is at 63% of women in leadership positions in the country. Sweden's at 44% and South Africa at 42%. The global average is at 21.8%, and the United States falls just below the global average at 20%. More specifically, in 2002, we were 57th in worldwide women's leadership. As of 2014, we dropped all the way to 84 out of 188 countries around the world. Currently, in the 114th Congress, 80% of Congress are white, 80% of Congress are male, and 92% of Congress identify themselves as Christians. Now, the statistics about women in color are even more discouraging. Women make up 50.8% of the national population, and almost 20% of women of office. Women of color only contribute 5.1% of all state legislation representation, 5.8% of Congress, and 3.5% in statewide elected executive office. What are some reasons for this? Well, some of it starts out from childhood, like some of the toys that we are accustomed to growing up and playing with. For example, young girls typically are given toys that are baby dolls or kitchenettes where they can go home and be a good stay-at-home wife or mom, or to play with the color pink, while boys are taught that they can be superheroes, they can be professional golfers, they can shoot weapons and rifles, and that they can grow up to be scientists, mathematicians, and astronauts. This part of socialization is important, and it's very, very important to realize that we almost don't even notice it sometimes. Some other current barriers for women is the fact that we don't even currently have a large amount of representation. If you can't see yourself doing it because you don't see someone like you doing it, it makes it much more difficult to envision yourself being a leader. Women also deal with a very severe double standard. It seems too often that women are being overly criticized by the media instead of talking about their points that they've brought up, it is instead in terms of what they've worn or what they're wearing. They also get into trouble sometimes depending on how they present themselves. Now, if a woman that is a candidate running for office is being tough, she's seen as being unrelatable and not feminine. Now, if she's too feminine, then how is she going to be the leader of our country, or a governor, or even a politician? Will she be tough enough? Well, why does any of this matter? Well, according to White House data, women make 77% of what a man earns for the same exact work. African American women earn 64% of that dollar, and Latina women make 56% of every dollar earned by man. Now, pay inequality is not the only issue, and it's not solely an issue that affects women. There are other issues such as sex trafficking, maternity leave, paternity leave, healthcare, sexual harassment, and domestic violence. Although these seem to be solely women's issues, these issues affect everyone, especially in the family. Another example of why we need women in elected office is that in 2014, an all-male panel was in charge of discussing and deciding on contraception funding for the United States. According to a data researcher named David Osborne, the empirical evidence presented supports the theory that women legislators behave differently than men with regards to creating policies that affect women. This finding is important in that it reinforces the absolute need to consider gender in legislature behavior and questions of representation in the United States. What is the the easiest way to fix this? It's actually very, very simple. In terms of providing leadership and mentorship programs can really affect how a woman decides if they want to actually be a leader or attempt political office. An example of this is the Center for Women's Leadership that's actually housed here at Portland State University. This program started 11 years ago and has brought hundreds and hundreds of women into this summer week-long program. To date, through training, mentorship, and support, the past alumni of the Center for Women Politics and Policy serve as women on judicial boards, as judges, as policy advisors, and, to this date, have several elected politicians who initially said that they would never run for political office or could never even dream of themselves being a politician. Another solution is to encourage women to run for local office. If you know someone that is very passionate about someone, encourage them. Women make up 40% of school boards. Typically, these local offices serve as a pipeline, and once you kind of dip your toe into the realm of politics, you realize that you have potential to move up higher and higher. Imagine if we actually had a representative democracy that was actually representative. This country is based on the United States Constitution that all men are created equal, which leaves out a very important part, which is half of the population, meaning women, to be exact. It is important that this inequality be taken seriously, and that proper measures are taken to ensure that there is parity in our country. I encourage all of you to encourage women around you to run for office. Thank you. Woo!